Everyone, and welcome to Straight Talk, Metropolitan Development Council's online community forum. I'm Pam Duncan, and I'm the president and CEO of MDC. Guess what, folks? Tonight is the 44th in a series of discussions started last year. We hold weekly conversations around topics impacting our communities in Tacoma and Pierce County. And I'm very happy that tonight we are joined by our own team. MDC's Tonia Hess and Erin Block are joining us for the latest in our ongoing series of discussions about MDC's programs that we call At Your Service. This time we will be talking about care management. And remember, the most important message throughout this entire series of conversations is that there is hope for our community. First, we would like to take this moment to acknowledge that this meeting and the services we provide are being conducted on the indigenous lands of the Puyallup people. We gratefully acknowledge that we rest on the traditional lands of the Puyallup people where they make their home and speak the Lushootseed Seed language. Thank you. Throughout today's conversation, if you are joining us live, you can submit questions to be addressed by our speakers using the question and answer function in Zoom. That's that Q&A button down at the bottom. We do our absolute best to try to answer every question that is posed. And now I'd like to introduce our guests for tonight's discussion. Tonia Hess is the Director of Care Management for MDC, and as one of MDC's longest tenured employees, she can offer a very unique perspective, not only about her program, but about MDC as a whole. Welcome, Tonia. Thank you for joining us. And we also have Erin Block, who is a care coordinator and case manager. She joined MDC in 2017 as a peer at the Randall Townsend Apartments and became a care coordinator in 2018. Welcome, Erin. Thank you for making the time to join us as well. So we are going to dive right in. And in the absence of our dear facilitator, Amanda Westbrook, who's not able to join us tonight, I am going to ask the question that she takes so much pleasure in opening our conversations with. And that is doing a check. This is our check-in, and the way we do our check-in is just to ask you about how your heart is doing today. And I don't call on anyone, we just weigh in.
Well, I can kick us off tonight. I'm feeling thankful and optimistic. We just had the state legislature finish its regular session down in Olympia yesterday, and there are a number of programs that are going to really benefit the folks who MDC works with every day, with help around things like eviction prevention and housing and just a lot of good things got passed in Olympia this year. So that's making me feel hopeful.
And I will weigh in as well. I'm actually feeling joyful and extremely hopeful. Um, I've waited a long time to see housing, affordable housing, be developed, and I'm seeing it come into fruition for Tacoma. So I'm really just, I can't even tell you how happy I am about that. So very happy.
Well, I am feeling honored to be a part of this and blessed to have a job in this time, to be able to do what I love to do. Yeah, so thanks, guys.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Tonia and Rob as well for weighing in. Typically, the person who asks the question gets to not have to answer. I will respond though, and it's resonating with, it's reflective of what I heard actually from all of you. Um, this legislative session was very different. And there are a lot of community members who are very excited and who are rejoicing because so many things that were put forth passed that we know are greatly needed for those in our community who look to us to serve them. And so happy about that because, you know, there have been legislative ends that people weren't really all that enthusiastic about. And then also there was just a word I heard, and that's about having joy and being joyful. And interestingly, that is an assignment I was given over the weekend to just start journaling about joy. So that was a reminder to hear that. It's like, okay, I can't get away from doing that. So thank you all for weighing in. And the first thing that we need to discuss, because we keep using this term care management, and for a lot of folks, that's a foreign term. What is care management? What is that?
Oh, care management. Um, Care management is a combination of supportive services, supportive and supported, and coordination of those services for those who are most at need. Um, what care management does is we're that bridge that bring people back to the community to show them that there are services within the community that they may not even be aware of. We are that group that step in, and we don't just step in, we step in and we hold their hand if need be, but we hand them off to someone that can actually provide the services. We do warm handoffs. We don't do those cold calls. We don't send them out, you know, on their own with resources and say, go do it. And hopefully you'll get it done. We're the ones that are that in between. We're on the phone and we're saying, we have Mr. Johnson on the other line and he needs this service. Can you provide it? Oh, you can? Mr. Johnson, this is Sally. That's what care management is. We are that, you know, we are the passenger and they are the driver.
So it sounds to me like you just made the distinction between case management and care management, especially with that last statement that you are the passenger and they are the driver.
That is correct. They are two different services. And I know they are similar in nature, but they are different services. When you're looking at a case manager, you're looking at someone who is going to resource you. They're going to give you those resources and they're going to, you know, try and guide you with those resources to send you out into the community to do it yourself. A care manager, we're going to show the care. We're going to navigate with you. We're going to get you where you need to be and make sure that it actually happens for you. And we can document that pathway that you took to get there.
So, and this is for Tania and Erin, what would you say are the guiding values that you hold as part of the care management team?
Well, I would say that these are people we're working with. I think that's the first thing that I like to keep in mind is that these people have histories, they have a story, and they have preferences and desires. So I like to make sure that my wishes for them don't trump what they want, and that's my first and foremost guiding principle, is that they're the director. So.
And I guess to add to what Erin is saying, um, that there's value in individuals. I believe in human potential, and I believe that everyone's entitled to the best life that they can have. I don't believe that there's any throwaway people. So that's where the care piece comes in.
Mhm.
It's not just a word. You have to actually feel the value in people.
I love that. So that term itself is really indicative of a value that is
Yes.
about care. Well, so then how do people get referred to us to receive services and support from care management?
Erin, did you want to start?
Honestly, a lot of the people that I've worked with came off the street. I've referred them to whatever services they're looking for. Being at Randall, we're kind of in the middle of where the need is. But we get referrals from coordinated entry. We get referrals from all the mental health facilities, all of the community organizations. We get referrals from everywhere.
We also do self-referrals. So we do take self-referrals. If they are not connected with coordinated entry, we make sure that they get connected to coordinated entry as a part of that referral process. Um, we get referrals through our AmeriGroup, which is one of our bigger referrals as well through FCS. We get referrals from family. We get referrals from shelters. We get referrals from churches. Our referral system is limitless, I would say. If someone walks up to us and say, hey, I know of a family on the corner of 7th Street, 1 block down from you all under your parking garage, that becomes a referral and we go to where they are.
So I heard a couple of things that I'd like to, if I were not in the loop, I wouldn't know what they mean. So one is, Erin, you mentioned Randall Townsend. Tell me about Randall Townsend.
So Randall Townsend is a 35-unit apartment building that is, it's my building. It's permanent supportive housing for the chronically homeless. So it's people who have been on the streets for, many of them for years and years and years. Coordinated entry sends us referrals to fill the units there. And they are there permanently to live, the rest of their lives. So I do the case management and care coordination at this Housing First permanent supportive housing complex. And it's on the corner of 7th and Fawcett. So it's right in the middle.
First?
Housing First is where you meet the housing need first. It's really exactly what it sounds like. Excuse me. Despite all of the other needs, shelter is one of our primary needs in order to thrive. So housing first is you house them first and then you work on all the other issues.
Thanks. And then what about Tonia? What's AmeriGroup and what's FCS?
Oh, Amera Group is one of the foundational community support providers. They were the first contractors to work with Foundation Community Supports. Foundation Community Supports, or FCS, they are a housing coordination system that has been put in place through Medicaid. And I get excited about this because I'm one of those loudmouth individuals who've always said that housing and healthcare go together. You can't have one without the other. And finally, someone listened and realized that we have all these Medicaid participants who are homeless. Why aren't we combining the two? We can't get them healthy and keep them out of the ERs unless we house them. Mm-hmm. So that's how Foundation Community Supports came about through Medicaid, and it's awesome. It really is. They have care coordinators that work with them on fixing barriers that are keeping them from being housed. At the same time, doing housing searches with them, making sure that they have that housing assessment piece in place. We want to know what they want. That could be a reason why people aren't housed. They're not getting what they want in housing. So they're choosing something less or choosing not to deal with the system because the system we know is slightly broken. And we're trying to mend it the best that we can through Foundation Community Supports.
Okay, thank you for that. So how do people contact us for supports? Besides if they see you walking down the street or whatever, but especially right now.
So what we have done at MDC, we have an awesome IT team and communications team. They are the best, shout out. We have an email address for supportive housing so that our participants can email us. They can also call our outside line where they can leave a message, and that message is not just to one particular person. It will go to more than one care coordinator so that we have someone reach out to them to make sure that we are getting in contact with them within a 24-hour window. Same with the email address. They can send an email, we can email back. We have been able to reach out through different media sources, especially with the Pierce College, because we have a care coordinator at Pierce College. We are on the 211 listing so that they can reach us that way. If you can think of it, we've probably thought of it, short of putting a note in a bottle and sending it upstream so that they are able to reach us.
Okay, and we will get that information so we can post it in the chat for folks. Thank you for that. So I'd like for you to think about pre-COVID and also during the pandemic. What have you found to be the most challenging aspects of your work? Let's start with pre-COVID, and I'd like to this time start with Erin. What have you found to be most challenging?
So pre-COVID, I would have to say the resources, they just weren't there. There was no units, there was no money. So we were just kind of digging for things that weren't available to our clients. Mm. I think that was the hardest part for me, was that we wanted to offer so many things, but we could only offer so much because it just wasn't there. So, do you want me to go into post-COVID?
Not yet. I'd like to hear from Tonia.
So I am going to also say that pre-COVID affordable housing, the supply and demand was just not there. Although we made great relationships with the community, and we were fortunate, I'll say we were definitely fortunately enough to house quite a few of our participants, but the rates were, above their means in some cases. It's the housing. The housing is the biggest piece. Just getting enough landlords on board to house individuals was challenging enough. And then COVID came. And just, yeah, I would say that was the biggest.
So that's a great segue into where we are now. We are still in a pandemic. We are, we went from phase 1 to 2 to 3 to back to 2. So what do you find to be the most challenging aspect of providing these services in the midst of a pandemic?
I'm going to say not being able to be physically with people. That's been my biggest struggle. I've been able, for the most part, to be on site at Randall. My excuse is it's a 24-hour program and I'm allowed. But not being face-to-face with people, it's really hard to determine their needs, determine what's really going on, get the real scoop. So that has been my biggest issue since COVID, is not being on site all the time, knowing what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would say that my biggest fear is trust. Because the moratorium has gone on so long, we have a lot of landlords that have trust issues now, and they're not willing to rent to low income individuals because they've had so many people stay in their units, and they have been, pretty much, destroying the units. Some that could pay just stop paying. And so it's forcing a lot of the landlords to second guess who they want in their units now. Mm-hmm. And they have increased their ask to move in to make it so far out of reach for a lot of the people that we serve. It takes a lot to convince them that we are here to help, not just our participants, but we're here to support you as well, to make sure that both needs are being met. But it's getting difficult because they have changed those requirements, and now they have the option to do that. They can pick and choose who they want in their units, and it scares me that our group may not be in that choice. So when this moratorium does end, they're not going to be able to afford those units, because now those landlords have all that fear built up, and they have all this debt that they've acquired. So that's a huge fear, as well as not being able to see our participants like we want to. Mm-hmm. They have their own fears. Mm-hmm. Right now, they don't want anyone even in their units or their doorways because they're scared of COVID too. Mm-hmm. And so that, standing 50, sometimes you have to stand through the cell phone. I mean, even though we've gotten creative, it's taken a lot, just trying to teach them how to operate a phone so that we can at least see that they're somewhat safe. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I have to flip it on its head and ask you, what's been most rewarding for you as part of the care management team?
Is it COVID related or just generally?
In general, yeah.
The whole thing, just the job of watching people empower themselves, watching people move forward, being able to be a part of that, it's a rewarding job. You do have to be creative. A lot of people don't like me, but the ones who really want to move forward, watching them do that is just incredible.
So Erin, I love that you said you have to be creative. And for the folks who can't see in the chat, one of your colleagues said, care managers are highly creative and work as a team to troubleshoot and share ideas. You work outside of the box, you find a way. And that's what
Yes.
you just articulated. I don't think you even saw that. So yay, kudos. And that's obviously shared across the board. Tonia, what would you say is like, what is it that you find so rewarding about this?
Wow, I have a lot. I have a incredible team.
Mhm.
And I don't even think people really understand how incredible they are. They get really creative, and you have to be creative to be a care coordinator, because there is no cookie cutter
Approach.
procedure or approach, because everybody's different and you want to serve them how they want to be served.
Mhm.
So when I say they're creative, I'm sure you all remember, if you don't, the drive-by housing. And when I kept saying it, they thought it was a shooting, but it was not. It was people were literally driving up, filling out their housing paperwork, and we were doing it so that we maintain social distance, and they still were able to be housed. Mm-hmm. So it was awesome. They have some creative minds, and we have our little differences, as every program does, but the rewarding part at the end is when we can all come together and we say how such and such got their driver's license and they paid off all their speeding tickets, and now they're moving into their own place and they got a job, and everybody's like, we're all excited, like, you forgot about all them hours, it was like, oh. it's that one thing that just sends you over the edge. You're like, okay, I forgot all the bad stuff that happened because today this happened. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it's awesome.
So you just shared something like, when this kind of thing happens, I'd like to hear, and I really would love for you to talk about some success stories without sharing people's personal information. What's just a great success story? What's the thing that at the end of the day you just think about, oh, but remember that situation? We were so happy.
Wow. Oh gosh, I want to say it was a single father that, and I want to say he actually touched quite a bit of MDC. And I want to say he came from the shelter. Him and the children were housed out of the shelter. And he was placed into a home, him and the children. They were so excited. We were excited. I can't even tell you how excited we were, because at that time we were working really hard to try and get as many people out of the shelter housed. And it was awesome to see a single father get housed with his kids. So yeah, that, believe it or not, that was a big one. I have to have a lot of big ones now that I think about it. I do, because I think about the driver's license story that I was saying, that we watched someone that really took a hold of their own goals, and we were just there for the ride. Literally, we were there for the ride. They said, they just woke up and said, I'm going to go to mental health services. And everybody, the care coordinator was like, and I'm like, I'm hearing this, and they're like, and I didn't do it. They did it. They said they were going to sign up for services, and they went and signed up for services. They said that they wanted to do this, and they went and did it. And now this person checks in. They're no longer in the program. Got it together and did their own thing. Now they still call in, because that's part of their routine, to let the care coordinator know how they're doing, even when they don't have to.
Yeah. That's a
So
great
yeah,
success story
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Wow. How about you, Erin?
I think my favorite is a person who moved into Randall Townsend, was newly sober, really had no idea what they wanted to do. Within a year, they had moved on, had employment, um, and they're actually one of our people. So, one of our colleagues. So, he went within a year from permanent supportive housing to, working with us. And that was
So
really
from client to
satisfying to watch.
colleague.
Yeah.
Which I think is really awesome because it says two things. Just because they call it permanent supportive housing,
Yeah.
don't mean it has to be permanent.
Yeah. You can totally move on from it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So, I heard you talk about foundational community supports. And if I'm listening with an outsider's ear, I'm thinking, okay, so that must be, is that like funding? Is that like, why are you talking about foundational community supports? And is there other funding that you all use to help people get housed?
So I will say foundational community supports is a non-tangible asset, meaning there is no funding attached to foundational community supports. However, what that does is you get a care coordinator who is going to work with you to find that funding that you need for housing, or find that funding that you need for whatever it is that you're trying to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be housing. It could be you're trying to go back to school. You're trying to figure out how to get a down payment on your house, or just any kind of services that you need that may need funding attached to it, or it may not. You might just want to go take a free art class and haven't figured out how to get that done. And that's what that person is going to do. They're going to help you find what it is you need in the community. As far as funds, where we do have some funding available through our commerce funding for rental assistance, and we call it CBRA. It is limited funding for housing, I would say. And it's a small group of permanent supportive housing individuals that get that funding. Every now and then, we may have a slot that opens up. And with Commerce wonderful permission, they will allow us to bring someone new in. For the most part, with that funding, it's closed to the ones that are currently on the housing rent roll, which means they can be housed with that funding until Commerce says it's no more, or until we get them on a permanent subsidy. So we do have that additional funding. We do not have any additional rental assistance through that type of funding. However, we do have supported housing, which is through Pierce County funding. It's HHP Homeless Housing Project, or COC Continuum of Care funding. And I know that's a lot of acronyms, and that's why I wanted to make sure that we put those in there. But basically what I am telling you is that is grant funding. And those funding sources, those housing requirements come through coordinated entry. And those are 100% coordinated entry referrals, meaning if you're trying to find permanent supportive housing or rapid rehousing, all those dollars are tied in through HUD, which means you HUD, Housing and Urban Development, which means you would have to go through 211 and you would request to be put on the coordinated entry list. And they will walk you through the steps on how to get in which program that is going to best suit you. So those are all of our funded projects when it comes to rent. Now, with that being said, we do have others. We have Pierce County Housing Authority, and we have one property that is project-based, which is our Campbell Court. And that project requires that the individual is literally homeless with a mental health condition. We have a wait list that we utilize through Real Estate Investment Services, who is our property management company. And that is how they are referred there. They are referred also through our community partners that provide mental health services as well as SUD services. That also includes our 615 building, where we have Tacoma Housing Authority vouchers, but the vouchers are with the building. They're project-based voucher, not tenant-based, meaning the individual would still have to qualify through THA to be within that project, but the voucher does not travel with the tenant. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Our 615 property, however, is a clean and sober transitional project, meaning it's a 2-year program, and that one is an actual program where you are to maintain your sobriety. You have to complete a outpatient group, and they're looking at the time frame should be a year to transition on, because when people tend to stay too long, they tend to backslide, and we want to catch them when they're at their best and ready to move forward. In order to get into that project, they have to be coming out of an outpatient treatment or be in outpatient treatment to enter the project. Then we have our 621 building that is homeless housing. It is actually permanent supportive. Well, it's actually permanent housing. Let me take the supportive out, because there is no supportive services attached to that project. However, it is a transition project or transition housing. We can actually transition from our 615 to our 621, provided there's space available. With that project, they can be there for life, as long as they are paying their rent and following their lease.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you give me a sense of how many clients you serve over the course of a year? Maybe a better question is, at any given time, like right now, how many clients do you work with?
So right now, 135, about 12, 147. So I would say we have about 147 clients that are in our MDC housing projects. And then in our supportive, we have about 94. And then in our FCS, we have 89. No, I'm sorry. Hold on. That would be forensic harps. We have about 89 clients. And then in our FCS, I think we're at 98. So you see how those numbers climb?
So in various types of supportive services, some are permanent supportive housing, others are you are providing supports and services. There's a combination. Am I hearing like right around?
You're hearing like, so we have about 106 in our FCS, about 89 in our, we're looking at about, we're good 300 and something clients. Mm-hmm. Some may be duplicated because they get dual services, but even though the services are dual, we still have to count them in each project because we're providing a different service.
So how have we made it easier to serve clients? And let me give you a little bit of background. You know, kind of traditionally, people come, they're looking for some help, right? Maybe they come referred by another agency, or through coordinated entry or whatever. And historically, like whenever people come for services, no matter where they go, they're told, hey, you need this and this and this, you need this documentation, and here's the date that we want you to come in and do intake, and then we want you to come back and follow up, and then we want you to wait while we look for something for you. So how have we made it easier for people to receive services?
So I'm going to start by saying we meet them where they're at. And that is a broad statement. And so when I say we meet them where they're at, we meet them where they're at in their journey, right where they're at in their journey. We're not asking them to do, anything different other than we meet them where they're at. We literally meet them where they're at. If we need to go to them, then that's what we do. We do our best to streamline the services so that they're not duplicated. We don't want to have one department asking the same questions that another department is going to ask. So we collaborate within ourselves to streamline those services and try and make sure that we're not doubling the work for the individual. If it's something that we can get because they've had those services with us before or with someone else in our department, then we're going to make sure we make the effort to get those things, i.e. birth certificates or previous addresses, that kind of stuff. Anything that we can do to make it easier for them, then that's what we're going to do. We try and avoid them having to come to us or to have to go to whomever. If we can get it for them, then that's what we do. We have gotten to the point that we can do FaceTime. So we do FaceTime. We have partnered with our community, and we were able to get a lot of smartphones. So we were able to hand out smartphones so that they could, research just on their smartphone, and they could send it to us via photo. We have been able to set up systems where we can do, we can take voice, verbal consents. We can,
Wow.
We have gotten to the point where we have taken every creative effort that we can, especially when it comes to health and safeties. And we will let you FaceTime us your unit. You put us on FaceTime and you can walk around your unit and show us what the inside of your unit looks like. And that was built out of fear for the client, not so much the staff, because the clients were fearful of having people in their home. Mm-hmm. We were fearful of having them in a home that was unsanitary and unsafe. So that was one of the ways to make sure that we could check on our clients. Medications, those kind of things, they can coordinate that with their care coordinators. And we found ways to set up things so that it could be delivered. We've done cell phone teaching because we have a lot of people who've gotten cell phones and don't know how to use them or throw them away when they run out of minutes. Yes. Literally throw them away because there's no more minutes on it. Introduce them to the world of free Wi-Fi. You go stand outside of Starbucks or one of the sites that have free Wi-Fi and you can still use your phone. We have set up email addresses for individuals so that they could get emails from Social Security and whoever they needed so that they didn't have to go anywhere. Shannon is one of the people who have partnered with her clients in saying that, we're going to need your award letter every year. So what they have done when they go into Social Security, they ask that their award letter be mailed to Shannon as well as them. So they don't have to worry about holding on to those papers if they're homeless, and she will automatically get them.
So I heard you say something that I have made me think of a question. What is permanent supportive housing, and why do people need that?
Permanent supportive housing is for those who have been chronically homeless with a disability. They're usually on a fixed income or no income at all, or they have various challenges that are going to prevent them from functioning on their own in the community. So what permanent supportive housing means is you're going to always have someone there to help you navigate. And they're going to be there as much or as little as you want them there. but they're going to always be there.
So there are folks who don't need it, it sounds like, and there are folks who do need it.
And it's at different levels. They may not need it as intense as the next person. So it varies on the individual. That's why I always say there's no cookie cutter format for what we do. Everything is individual service plans and individual goals. So,
Yeah. So if someone doesn't get the help that they need, why is that?
I'm going to say if someone doesn't get the help that they need, it would be that they may very well be in a place mentally that they're not able to accept the help that's being offered, which is quite a challenge. And unfortunately, we see that quite a bit. You can offer and offer, but it's going to take some specialized mandates to step in to get that help that they need. Now, I won't say that they won't get the help. It might be less than the desirable way we want them to get to help. And I'm dealing with that at this very moment. That's why my phone is pinging. Sometimes we have to ask for those interventions, and i.e. that would be DCR or the police to step in with DCR because that person is in a place where they can't mentally accept the help that you're giving. Mm-hmm. Even though we know they need it, and they probably internally know they need it, but they just can't at that time. The other reason, why would someone not be able to get the help? I just, in my mind, I cannot see why anyone should not be able to get the help that they need. I would never say that it's due to staffing. That is just a horrible excuse, because in my mind, if we cannot provide the service, then we need to be connecting them with a community partner that can.
Yeah.
So I can't see why someone would get the service for. I mean, those are the only two reasons. We can't provide it, then we're going to find someone who can. If they're internal and it's they are working with us and they are not getting what they need from that care coordinator, again, that's where warm handoff comes. Not everybody can work with everyone. So again, still no reason they cannot get the service that they desire. We may need to switch out a person and find someone that they can relate to. They may not relate to Erin, but find that they relate to Vicky. They may not, we have to find out what works best for our clients. So why they're not getting the service, that should never happen unless it's not available.
So what would you say is the greatest need as you are in your team? And Erin, I'll start with you first. Like, what are you seeing as the greatest need with those we are serving through care management?
Mental health. I think that is the largest need, a need that I see within everyone. And obviously it's outside my scope. So we do a lot of referring. But I think that mental health is really untouched. Mental health affects everything, especially housing, in my opinion. So I think that is that's the first thing that I think should be.
Thank you.
Now, I'm going to say mental health as well. But I'm going to say mental health in the form that we need a system that is going to be a better housing structured system that is going to encompass all levels of mental health. We have the hard to serve, and then we have the hardest to serve. Right now, I'll say we have the hard to serve, but there are some who are the hardest to serve. And we need a mental health system and a housing system that is going to serve that particular population. That is an enhanced housing system that is going to work with the individual who has the severe mental health challenges, along with the substance use disorder, along with the hoarding disorder, along with the volatile behavior, and that's going to have staff that's well trained, well versed, and you're going to have that person that is going to be that medication monitor to make sure that they're staying on their meds and that they're getting all this in an enhanced housing facility. That is what we're truly missing. I'm not asking for Western State. I'm not asking for an EMT. I'm asking for something that's going to help stabilize that particular group of individuals, because to try and put them in independent living creates chaos, not only for the individual, but for the ones who are already have severe trauma. Now you're adding something even more severe than they've ever dealt with. So we need to be able to protect that group as well as that particular group that has those extreme challenges. Because I'm going to go back to my saying, there are no throwaway people.
Right.
I'd also like to say that for that group of people, independence, I think that sort of housing would need to allow them to be as independent as possible, give them the freedom that, we all get, just a little bit extra support in a way that we can't support. Does that make sense? But I think that independence is really, really important for everyone. And just because they have those pretty severe mental health issues doesn't mean that they should be locked away in a facility, or I think that they should. So basically, extra supportive housing, but with the independence that we all want.
So here's my last question. This is all unscripted. You have a magic wand, and your wand doesn't make everything perfect, but it allows you, it's like, I want you to think about those times when you're like, I wish we just had this. What is that thing? What's that if you had a wand, you could make, you would have it?
That is a terrible question. Just one thing. I don't know. You'll have to come back to me.
So Erin, if it's more than one thing, if it's, okay, short of world peace, which we need, but in your, maybe the way to think about it is when you have to be creative and you're thinking outside of the box, and did you get it right 100% of the time, or were there times where you just couldn't help somebody, and if you just had this thing, it would have helped?
Well, like Tonia said, we have a really great team. So if I can't, and I'm not that creative, I have to be honest with you. I really use people a lot for their creative minds. Um, so there have been times, but there's always been someone on our team who has been able to answer it,
Or
give
help
me an
figure it
answer
out.
to that. If only we had this one thing. There's always been someone there to answer that question. So I guess if I had a magic wand, I'd want the rest of the world to be understanding of mental health issues and the homeless community, just understanding for what's going on, because a lot of people, they don't see people with mental health issues as people. Unfortunately, they don't see the homeless population as members of society. So I would go with understanding. And to be honest with you, I've not always been understanding. So it's really humbling when you can understand
Mhm,
after not being
mhm.
accepting, not being understanding. So that's what I would use my magic wand for.
Erin, I think that's an excellent response.
Thank you.
Very, very excellent.
Tania, she hit that out of the park. What are you going to do?
Yes, she did.
Thank you.
She did. Um, my magic wand. Wow. And I can't even go with Erin's because I like yours too a lot. Um, I I think I would like to use my magic wand for and I'm going to keep my magic wand locally. I want to see change and not just temporary change in what's going on in our area. I want to see a permanent solution to our homelessness. I want to be able to drive downtown Tacoma and not see a tent because I know everybody's housed in some form of shelter that's not outside, that has brick mortar and they're inside. So I'm waving my wand for a better solution, a permanent solution to what's going on in our area downtown. Additional housing, whatever it may be, additional mental health services. And when I say house, let me be clear. I don't want to see them housed in the jail system. That's not the housing I'm referencing. Although some of our clients go to jail because they need to be housed.
Yeah. Um, I am greatly humbled by being a part of the team that includes Tania and Erin and all of the care management team that is on this call, who's watching, who's been weighing in. I don't want to call out people's names because I'll leave someone out and then I'll feel really terrible about that. But your compassion and your commitment to serving is very evident. And Erin and Tonia, both, your response to that last question, which you weren't prepared for at all, really elevates the need for us to have an episode that's especially about mental health. And Erin, I really appreciate your transparency about your own journey in terms of learning about mental health. And there's so many folks who just don't understand. And then when you add to that the stigma with mental health, people don't want to talk about it. So I appreciate that you brought it up because we're going to have that be an episode. I also want to thank you publicly, as well as your whole team, for your service and how you care for people. Thank you for making the time for this conversation tonight. I want to thank everyone who joined us tonight to hear MDC at your service talking about care management. And if you'd like more information about our care management services, you can email us at supportive services, that's service with an S at the end, at mdc-hope.org. Don't forget, every Monday right here at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, we provide another conversation on Straight Talk. We look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and have a wonderful evening. Good night.